Come closer, squires. Quickly now, come on, and make sure you pull those heavy iron doors completely shut behind you. Welcome to the damp catacombs beneath the palace. You are here for a very dark lesson in survival. Today, I'm not merely your host. I want you to consider me a veteran Inquisitor Knight of the realm. And you, well, you're the new generation tasked with defending the High Inquisitor's fortress. In this explainer, we're going to look closely at the very bones of our kingdom. We'll be studying the architecture of fear, and more importantly, the terrifying fire of becoming that threatens to burn this whole thing down. I need you to pay close attention to the ancient archives we'll be reviewing tonight, because your lives, and honestly, the stability of the entire kingdom, literally depend on your understanding of these blueprints.
Okay, let's dive into this. Read the words of the High Inquisitor etched on the stone right in front of you. Preserve the world as it is. Build walls of exclusion and fear. This right here is our sacred duty. As Knights of the Order, our sole purpose is to maintain the rigid order against the creeping, chaotic poison of human ambition. You see, the status quo isn't just some natural occurrence, my young squires. It has to be enforced. It has to be guarded. The High Inquisitor's very heart is a fortress built of these exact walls. Because every new idea, every little flicker of change is a poison of dissent that completely threatens the world as it is. Section 1. The Architecture of Fear and Maintaining the Rigid Order. The High Inquisitor's fortress isn't just made of regular stone. No, it's an ancestral vault built upon stained blueprints and nourished by a very specific, bitter fertilizer of historical trauma and prejudice. It's an architecture designed to completely ossify the human psyche. To immobilize the dreamers who would actually dare disrupt our peace, we rely on our dark liturgy. So behold our mechanisms of enforcement. First, alchemical inversion. We don't just extinguish the fire of imagination, we weaponize it. We melt that fiery drive for progress down and forge it into cold iron shackles. Second, perverted gardening. We act as caretakers, sure, but we systematically prune the dead wood of hope, taking any vibrant branches of change and grafting them straight down into the twisted roots of our past. And finally, darkest masonry. With a hidden trowel, we methodically wall in human potential, burying every dreamer's heroic silhouette behind incredibly heavy brick. We essentially build our permanence right on top of their silenced dreams. Section 2. The Unformed Threat. The Poison of Dissent. I really have to warn you, squires. A new, frankly terrifying disease is sweeping through the realm as we speak. It's a threat that makes our heavy masonry look like wet paper, mostly because it just ignores our physical walls entirely. Let the absolute dread of this term sink in for a second. Chaotic becoming. It's this unformed, volatile force. It doesn't arrive as an invading army with banners and siege engines. No, it arrives as a rough sketch in the mind, a tattered ledger presented in the royal halls. It dares to imagine a terrifying world as it could be. And it bypasses our walls of exclusion precisely because it's not a physical force. It's an existential threat to our structural containment. It doesn't follow our stained blueprints, and therefore, our traditional architecture literally has no predefined way to hold it. And this brilliantly illustrates the very heart of our nightmare. On the left side, you've got our rigid fortress. It's heavy, it's permanent, and it relies completely on static lines to enforce the world as it is. It's built upon the architectural bones of the kingdom, those messy, original designs rejected by high society and locked away safely in our ancestral vaults. But on the right, chaotic becoming. It is exactly that messy design, shifting like cracked glass, just a relentless pursuit of the world as it could be. I mean, how do you trap something that doesn't even have a shape? How do you crush a fluid, uncontainable growth that just slips right through the cracks in our heavy masonry? Section 3. The Jester's Failure and Shattered Shackles. To truly understand the danger here, you really need to learn from the failures of your superiors. Let's look at the cautionary tale of the Jester Knight, the master of the superego who manages vanity. Consider the Jester Knight's primary weapon, the narcissistic trap. Historically, this thing has been absolutely flawless. He relies on securing the persona. He takes a dreamer's pride, their deep desire to be seen and admired, and he essentially forges it into iron shackles. He leads them willingly into a permanent tomb of vanity and self-obsession. He drags the subject right down into the earth using their own ego as the anchor. It's usually perfect. But why does our cold iron melt before this new, shifting fire? I'll tell you, but keep your voices down.
It's because the intoxicating nectar of chaotic becoming is simply too volatile. It totally lacks the clear, predictable vanity our shackles actually require to hold tight. The Jester Knight reaches out to trap their pride, but there's no rigid persona to grasp. There is only a messy, selfless drive for potential that just burns right through his iron. He is quite literally trying to chain a rushing river with an iron padlock. It simply will not hold. Section 4. The Shadow's Crumbling Masonry. A design without a conclusion. Now, if the Jester failed, you'd think surely the Shadow Knight, our high priest of the ego, could contain it, right? He relentlessly prioritizes reality testing, forcing the world as it is upon the mind. He utilizes the hidden trowel. The Shadow Knight's sacred duty is to seal the architectural bones of any new thought behind a massive wall of heavy masonry. He brings every little rough sketch of a life to a final, static structural conclusion. He basically walls in the dreamer's heroic silhouette forever, bearing their potential under the sheer, crushing weight of structural reality. So the crucial point is this: how do you entomb a design that literally continues to grow while you watch it? This is the terror that keeps the High Inquisitor awake at night. Our darkest masonry is proving utterly useless right now. The Shadow Knight builds a wall, but the architectural bones of chaotic becoming simply expand right through it. It completely refuses to reach a structural conclusion. It is a living, breathing potential, and our static bricks just cannot smother it. Section 5. Dissolving the Darkest Foundations. The Alchemical Threat. And this chaos doesn't just climb over our walls, squires. It threatens to dissolve the very bitter soil and historical trauma our entire kingdom is built upon. This is our alchemical inversion nightmare. The creative spark shifts like cracked glass, flat out refusing transmutation into dull lead. See, we're used to turning the fire of imagination into something heavy, dead, and easily controllable. But this messy design dissolves the structural manifestations of our power. It is a severe alchemical threat that actively breaks down the darkest masonry of the state, turning our heavy lead back into a blinding, uncontainable light. Just look at the stark contrast here. Over on the left, we have the deadwood. These are the broken souls, incredibly easy to prune by our perverted gardeners. They conform seamlessly to the twisted roots of our kingdom's past. They are easily weighed down by our third brother, the Bard Knight of Memory. He anchors the order in historical trauma, using a suffocating mist of guilt and the thorns of the past to create an actual physical weight against their lungs. It's very effective. But on the right, look at the vibrant branch. This fire of imagination actively resists us. It completely ignores the thorns of our past. It pushes right through the Bard Knight's suffocating mist, drawing its life from a future we absolutely cannot control. Section 6. The Pursuit of Stone Silence. Our final protocol. Listen to me very closely now. Shake off your fear. We are Inquisitor Knights, and we have one final response to this spreading poison. Let's move to and see how this builds, because there is only one way to stop it. Step 1. You must violently graft their new ideas onto the twisted roots of our historical trauma. Step 2. You must drag their ledger, their rough sketch, deep into the damp catacombs, down into the skeletal belly of the earth where no light ever reaches. Step 3. You must force stone silence. Make no mistake, this brutal process is the only way to achieve total, crushing immobilization. Our ultimate aim is chillingly clear, isn't it? Complete and permanent immobilization of the soul behind a wall of cold stone. Our entire survival depends on bringing this rough sketch to a final, completely silent structural conclusion down here in the dark. We cannot let them imagine the world as it could be. Why? Because that fluid, expansive world has absolutely no place for our rigid fortress. But as we come to the end of our time in the catacombs today, let me drop the hood of the Inquisitor for just a moment. Stepping back from our dark parable, we really have to ask ourselves, can the cold reality of stone silence ever truly hold back the light of the world as it could be? This is the mythical, philosophical struggle at the very core of these texts we've been analyzing. It's the heavy, stagnant weight of the rigid order, desperately trying to build walls against the fluid, undeniable fire of human potential. It leaves us to wonder, when the irresistible force of imagination meets the immovable object of systemic fear, in that inevitable struggle between the stone wall and the growing light, which one eventually cracks? I'll leave you to ponder that one. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and as always, keep learning.